Joining me now from Calgary is Josh Andrus from Project Confederation. Now, Josh is the executive director of Project Confederation. We've covered Project Confederation here on Rebel News in the past, but I've never had Josh on my show before, and that's to my great regret. Josh, thanks for taking the time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who and what Project Confederation is?
Yeah, Project Confederation was born out of frustration with the way that Alberta in particular, but Western Canada has been treated within Federation going back to really the before the formation of the provinces, even back to the purchase of Rupert's Land by the Dominion of Canada, which is the land that Western Canada now sit. Really, at the end of the day, the West has been treated like a colony, where we've been essentially mined for our resource revenue and to pay for large industrial projects and other luxury products in Eastern Canada, lavish social programs in Quebec being a flashpoint right now, given the amount of money we spend on equalization. So what I realized was we needed some kind of an advocacy group to focus just on policy. We're not a political party. We're just a nonprofit think tank that focuses on bringing forward public policy that can help alleviate some of these concerns. We issued a 9-point policy proclamation in 2019, shortly after the federal Liberals were reelected. They'd outlined 9 different policy objectives that we felt the provincial government should implement. I'm not going to go through all 9 of them just for time purposes, but the big 3 for me, at least at this point, were abolishing equalization from the Constitution of Canada, unrestricted cross-country free trade for goods, services, and infrastructure such as railways and pipelines, as well as some kind of electoral reform that gives the West a better say on Parliament Hill. Right now, Alberta alone has 34 seats in the House of Commons. Ontario and Quebec have 199, which means that just naturally most policies are going to favor the 199 seats in the House of Commons as opposed to the 34. So that's something that we need to take into account. So those are the policy objectives that we're trying to, the big 3 right now. We also do have like the firewall initiatives, which essentially was Stephen Harper as well as 5 other academics put together a firewall letter in 2001. We have dusted that off and brought it back. So we're working to make some progress on that.
So, as you're talking there, I'm thinking, our new premier who is campaigning for re-election, I think she's adopted, at least to a certain extent, some of those policies in theory.
In theory, yeah.
In theory. And I suppose even in legislation with the Sovereignty Act. But you say you're not a political party, and I think that's great. I think it's important to be working outside of the mechanisms of a political party so you can launch these ideas, float them, see if they're a good idea, and then have political parties adopt them. Is that sort of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, the idea is to focus on policy. I find political parties, their objective is to take a snapshot of what they feel is publicly popular at any given point in time and build a platform around that. The objective of a think tank, and the left has been doing this extremely well for the past decades.
Broadbent
Institute. If you think of any political issue on the left, you can probably list off 5 to 10 think tanks that have popped up in the last 5 years to deal with that. Conservative side, we don't really have that level of influence on the idea side of things. So policy ideas that are generated have a tendency to we face a tremendous amount of opposition from left-wing think tanks. So the idea with the think tank is to try and change what the public's opinion is on an issue at any given point in time. So a party, like I said, takes a snapshot of what they think they can win on. A think tank's job is to try and change what people think on a particular issue, try and persuade people to support a particular issue. And when it comes to Western alienation, it's a big issue that we don't want to inflame tensions any more than they necessarily need to be. If they get inflamed, we think it should be the federal government that we're pointing the finger at, not at ourselves for being overly aggressive. But it's one of those things where if we take the right approach, I think we can manage to sway enough people on side to our positions that we can get genuine change. I mean, we did one of our positions and it was to hold an immediate referendum to abolish equalization from the Constitution of Canada. Alberta did hold that referendum in 2021. So, and it passed with a 63% success rate. it's one of those things where if we can put the right ideas out there at the right time, we can get public support for them. And it's all about just being intelligent, strategic, and academic in your approach.
Now, you mentioned, that we are treated as a colony here in the West, and you won't get any argument from me about that. And our resource wealth is being extracted and then sent to places like Quebec, where they have a balanced budget sometimes. And you're like, how did that happen? I know. But more recently, we're seeing sort of an incompatibility with this, because not only do they want our resource wealth, but then out of the other side of their mouths, they say, but you also cannot develop those resources, as we're seeing with the just transition. And that's really been something that Project Confederation has been banging the drum on, that if Rachel Notley, our NDP leader, is re-elected, I suppose, re-sent back to the Premier's office, there will be absolutely no opposition to the phasing out of our industry, our jobs, and this will all be done at the expense of the rest of Canada, which relies on Alberta's resource wealth. Oh, hey, what you just saw there is a clip from my weekly full-length show, The Gun Show. It airs on Wednesday, but this is the internet. You can watch it whenever you feel like. You just have to become a subscriber to our paywalled premium content. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com to become a member today.